Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm here to do my 2020 and 2021 goals and reading resolutions. I'm going to be touching a little bit on statistics as well, but I know that can come across as a little bit dry, so I'm going to more talk about reading trends and just let you know how this year went overall. I do want to mention, of course, that you're watching this before the end of the year, so you probably figured out that this isn't a full capture of the year. I'm actually recording this right at the end of November, but for the sake of my video, this is still going to work because I have met or have attempted to meet all of my goals, so I think that this will still give you a really good snapshot of how my year has gone. And let's get into it. Now, first, let's talk about my 2020 goals. My first one was my Goodreads challenge, and I set it to 50, which was really unnecessary because I actually completed that in March. As of the time of filming this, I have now read over 200 books, and I gotta say this is probably my least interesting stat because I really want to focus on quality over quantity, and so a number is just a number. And that actually ties really well into my second goal, and that was to have at least 10 books by the end of this year that I've either given 4.5 stars or a perfect 5 stars to, because when I set this goal last year, I was really worried that if I was reading less, I want to make sure that I was still reading really good books. And this was not a problem at all. Honestly, this year I ended up doing quality and quantity. And I guess spoiler alert for the next 4 videos that are coming over the next 2 weeks, but you're gonna get to watch my best of the year series. And so yeah, I have 4 videos talking about my favorite books, so not a problem there. I also had a goal to read only a maximum of 5 series at a time, and so I needed to either complete or catch up to the publication date in order to read a 6th series. This was not an issue at all, and in fact something I really enjoyed because it allowed me to focus on reading series back to back, and I discovered that I really love binging series. And as you're gonna see in my best of the year series, I actually read and enjoyed a lot more series than I have in previous years. I usually am someone that reads the first book and then never continues on. But when I have that kind of pressure to keep going, I do find that I enjoy the books a lot more. And if I don't enjoy the second book or the third, I know right away that I want to DNF the series, and I don't just leave it lingering because, it's been too long. So I found that to be a really effective goal. Now, I also had a goal to read 5 core classics, and this is probably my least favorite goal. I did technically complete it if you count my reread of The Exorcist, but the other 4 books I read, I really didn't like. And I should mention, I am allowing myself to peek at my phone for this video, but besides The Exorcist, I read The Omen, Haunting of Hill House, Phantom of the Opera, which arguably might not even really be a horror book, that's okay, and also The Turn of the Screw, which I really did not like. And I did complete this goal, but it was painful to do so. I'm not opposed to horror classics, and I do think that it's important as a horror reviewer to have an understanding of the foundations of the genre, but forcing myself to read a certain number each year just created pressure. And yeah, I did not like this goal at all. I won't be doing it again next year. And finally, perhaps my most interesting goal was to have a book budget of only $100. And this was a challenge. And I gotta say, I did not make it. I broke my budget. I ended up spending $153 this year. But considering everything that went on in the world, I don't actually feel that bad about it. And I'm actually really happy with how purposefully I was able to spend the money that I did have. And so let me give you a bit of a breakdown. So first, on audiobooks, I spent $116 on 20 audiobooks. This is definitely where I spent most of my money. That works out to $6 an audiobook, which was spent between Libro FM and Audible. And at least here in Canada, I found that was a really good deal. I never end up spending full price for like a credit, so not $15. But instead I was able to take advantage of different promotions, buy one, get one credits, sales I had on, etc. And I'm really happy about the money I spent there because audiobooks are one of my favorite ways to consume media, and I do tend to reread a lot of my audiobooks, more so even than my physical books. And I just feel like it's money well spent. I am very happy with that. I also did spend $36 on 4 physical books, and that works out to $9 a book, which is a little bit more than I'm used to spending, and that's only because I've in the past taken advantage of some library and used book sale events that have allowed me to get like books for like $2 or $3. But I realized that $9 a book is still a pretty good deal, and the books I bought I'm really happy with. 3 of them were favorites. All 4 that I bought were by diverse authors, which is definitely where I like to put my money. And I'm just overall happy with it. So did I go over budget? Yes, but considering the state of the world, I don't feel that bad about it. And in fact, I probably did okay overall, because while I spent more money on books, I didn't go out to eat as much. I wasn't grabbing coffee with friends. So I think it works out, and you know what? You need something to entertain yourself when you're home all day. Now to just go over some more general stats, I ended up reading 94 horror books this year, 20 thrillers, 51 sci-fi, and 28 fantasy, and the rest of my books was obviously made up by different genres. But I think it was interesting that 9% of the horror books I read became favorites, 15% of the thrillers I read became favorites, 16% of the science fiction books became favorites, and 29% of my fantasy became favorites. This might seem a little bit surprising. It might make it sound like I like fantasy more than other genres, but it has more to do with the fact that because my channel isn't as focused on fantasy books, I'm much more willing to DNF a book that's not working for me, as opposed to especially horror. It has the lowest percentage, because often I will push myself through a horror book I'm not enjoying, because either it's a book for my Patreon book club, or more likely it's a review copy or something that I know my audience is just interested in hearing my opinion on. I do like to let you know which books are worth the hype and which ones are not, and so really in order to do that, I do need to finish those books. So just kind of interesting to see, but again, isn't fully reflective of my reading, because I do allow myself to DNF books, and it really does depend a little bit on the source of the book and the genre, whether or not I freely DNF it or whether or not I think about it a little bit harder. Going back to my series goal, I currently have 2 series in progress, and those are the ones behind me, The Witcher as well as The Expanse series, which is a reread. And I have completed 5 series this year and caught up with another 5, and I definitely think that my goal really helped to focus me and get me through as many series as I did get through, and I'm really happy about that. Also, I had a goal to read a lot of new releases, and I ended up reading over 50 2020 releases this year, about 25% of my total reading so far. And again, really happy about that. I did not specifically track my diversity stats, but I know I did quite well. At least I did 40, 50 plus books. I just didn't get a chance to tally that up, but I do think that I was able to increase that percentages from previous years, and it's definitely reflective of my end of the year content, because when you watch my favorite videos, you're going to notice that there's a lot of overlap between my favorite books and my diverse books. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that diverse stories can often be very fresh. They can be told from unique perspectives. And that's typically what I'm looking for, because I read so much. I'm always looking for something different. And that was something I noticed this year, is definitely that overlap. I also should mention that this year was a struggle when it came to horror slumps, because I got kind of burnt out on the genre. I read a whole lot of it, and like I said, not all the books I was reading were favorites, and so that got to be a bit of a struggle. I think I found the solution for that, and that is to reintroduce some thrillers to my channel, because when I'm tired of reading fantasy, I turn over to sci-fi and vice versa. But when I'm tired of reading horror, I just keep reading horror, because that's what my channel is best known for. But I've heard feedback that people are okay with me introducing or reintroducing more thrillers back into my content, and I think that's going to give me the relief I need. I am picky when it comes to thrillers, but if I allow myself to DNF quite freely, I do think that the thrillers I end up picking up and finishing will really help to round out my reading and just keep me from just getting burnt out on a particular genre. So that's the plan. I think it's gonna go really well. And finally, let's get into my 2021 goals. My first one is my Goodreads challenge. I'm just going to set it at 100 books and honestly forget about it. I am not too worried. I think I'm going to surpass that, but I just don't really care. Instead, I want more quality, and that goes along the lines that I'm going to continue my series goals. So once again, I'm only going to allow myself to be reading up to 5 series at a time. And honestly, I'll prefer if I can keep that down to like 2 or 3 series at a time. As well, I'm going to give myself a book buying budget of $150, which is higher than last year, but it's still going to be tight because again, I spent $153 this year. So we'll see if I can stick to that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get as many audiobook deals as I did this year because I think Audible is kind of catching on that I'm not really willing to spend $15 on a book, but I will absolutely keep you posted. I also have a goal to read at least 40 diverse books next year. Honestly, I kind of am tempted to make this even higher in terms of the number, but that's my minimum, and I don't think I'm going to have a problem doing this because, as I mentioned, my favorite books and my diverse books tend to have a lot of overlap, and so I'm very excited to find new ones that will hopefully make my 2021 list. Along a similar line, I also want to read at least 40 new 2021 books, and that is so that I can continue to review new books for all of you and put together some new favorites of the year videos that once again will be focused on books published in the coming year. And I just think that's a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing it, so I want to continue on. I'm saying read 40 books, but I'm going to say read or attempt to read because I will allow myself to count DNFs, because if I'm reading a new release and it's really not working for me, I'm going to include it towards that total because I think that it still will be representative of my feelings towards kind of all the new buzzy books. So I will keep you posted, but I am looking forward to a new year of releases and reviews for all of you. And finally, my last goal is a little bit niche, but that is to find 5 more books that are going to scare me. Back in 2019, I mentioned before that I put out a video about the scariest books I ever read. It did really well. It was very popular, and I had a lot of fun with it. And so my plan was to do a follow-up video this year in 2020. However, I really didn't feel like I had enough books to talk about, and I didn't want to phone it in and just talk about books that were sort of creepy. But I would like to still do that video, so hopefully for October of 2021 I want to put that out, but in order to do that I need to read some more scary books. This is kind of a hard goal to focus on because I've learned through my reading vlog recently that it is hard to pick out books that are going to be scary because it's so personal, you just kind of stumble upon them usually. But I will keep this in mind as I'm picking up horror books, and hopefully I will be able to accomplish that because again, I really want to put out that video, but I want to do it properly. So that is it for this video. I would love to hear your comments down below. How do you think I did with my 2020 goals? What do you think of my 2021 goals? And also I would love to hear if you have any reading resolutions yourself. I love to get ideas for different challenges that I might want to try in the future. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I do read horror, thrillers, science fiction, and fantasy. And if you're already subscribed, thank you so much. You can still help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, sharing it around online, and hitting that notification bell. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.